How's it going? It's Dallas J. Morgan here with you on socialrepublic.com, continuing our conversation from last week, your brand. This week, your brand too. So we talked about your brand and the impact and importance of it and what you need to know and what the perception of it might be. So now that we've got those things under control and we kind of have our brains thinking about those things, the next thing we need to think about is if you have a negative impact, if your brand is looked at as being negative or it has a negative connotation behind it, think of things like unemployment or being laid off or those types of things. They really have a bad brand. There's nothing wrong with being laid off. I've been laid off twice. And I've been on unemployment twice. It's not the most fun thing you'll ever go through in your entire life. However, sometimes things happen. But I think being on unemployment or being laid off, these are things that they have a negative. It's very negative. So it's not a good thing. But when we talk about your brand, and does it have a negative effect on people? Is there things that are being said in the community about your brand that you may or may not know about? Are people thinking your brand offers one service when it in fact provides a product, or vice versa? These are things that negatively can impact your brand. So the thing to think about and the thing you have to know and realize is, one, is your brand seen as negative? And you might want to do some research on this. Jump on Google, do some search, try some things, ask your friends, family. If you're engaged in using social media and social networking tools like Facebook or Twitter or Yelp, things like that are a great place and a great way to find out what people are thinking or saying, if they're talking at all. The next thing is, once you find out, yes, okay, for example, you do have a negative brand, there are things that you want to change, the next thing is trying to find out, when did this all start? Once you kind of have that figured out, then you can kind of look at your timeline. Has business slumped or slowed down because of these things? Has your advertising kind of slumped because of these things? Has there been more problems, people leaving, a miscommunication internally and externally because of these things? And once you find out when it happened, maybe look and try to find out why it happened. And once you kind of have the why figured out, because that's going to be probably the most important, was there a miscommunication in a PR that was put out, or an employee that was fired or let go or quit, had negative feelings left behind? The when and where is really important, and obviously the why. But you have to find those things, and then the big thing is, how do you do that? How do you fix it if it's negative? Well, that's going to take a lot of time. You have to rebuild. Sometimes brands have to completely rebrand. The other thing to do is accept what is and try to change what's moving forward. So when you find out you have a negative brand, find out where it started, why it started, and then the big thing is, how are you going to fix it? And depending on your brand and your goals, your current direction, how long you've been around, all these things come into play on how you can go about changing that and moving that forward. If you've got questions, we'd love to talk to you. Feel free to contact us. But once you've got the when it all started and the why it started, then you can kind of look at where things have gone between then and where you are now. So, is there a simple answer? The answer is no. Unfortunately, there is no simple answer on how can you fix it. How can it go from being negative to positive? One, it does take time, and two, you kind of have to do a lot of homework and figure out what you want to do and how you want to revitalize your brand. So think about that. Next week, we're going to kind of continue your brand, and we'll give you some ideas of what you can do to kind of look at rebranding if you have to, or just breathing new life into the brand you have and making that negative go away and focus on the positive. So this is Dallas J. Moore with socialrepublic.com. Thanks for watching, and be back next week for your brand. It'll be part 3, some things you can do to get rid of the negative and bring the positive back into your brand. Thank you.